Image superhero line was this thing that Jim Valentino had recognized and through a bunch of letters that they were getting at Image, that Image had not really done a lot of superhero stuff. Jim Valentino became the publisher of Image after he had started a Shadowline imprint, which published Soulwind and by C. Scott Morse, I think, Scott Seymour, I don't know. Fantastic guy, love Soulwind. Oni did a giant hardcover of it, excellent book. But anyway, he did a bunch of indie stuff at Image, small black and white stuff, and so he ran that real well and eventually became the publisher of Image somehow. I don't really know the story. But he had recognized that Image was kind of getting away from superheroes. Like, there were a lot more non-superhero stuff, and people kind of wanted more superhero stuff like Image had started out with. And so he came up with the idea of doing this entire line of these new superhero books that were, he kind of had a mandate. He didn't want them to be grim and gritty, and he wanted them to be, they didn't necessarily have to be like old school fun, like, 1960s Silver Age stuff. But he didn't want it to be, gun-toting psychopaths or, didn't want Shadowhawk out there, breaking people's spines. He kind of wanted it to be classic superhero stuff. He wanted them to all be iconic. That was one thing he kept, it's got to be iconic, And so he doesn't talk like that at all. That's my impression for everyone, Then my wife called me and she was like, hey, you got to get that milk. So that's how it is. But so he they were doing this thing, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I begged to be a part of it, and so they let me pitch Invincible. And Tech Jacket was actually approved before then, and it came out in November. The superhero line debuted in January, but Tech Jacket was kind of an unofficial member of that as well, and it got canceled like all the other books except for Invincible. But it was Dominion by Keith Giffen and Ross Ritchie, and then Clockmaker by Jim Kruger. I was there. I was almost there. Jim Kruger, Matt Smith, and Zach Howard. Fire Breather by Phil Hester and Andy Kuhn and Bill Crabtree, which is where I found that guy. Because that book was done like way in advance, and so I saw the colors for Fire Breather #1 before Invincible was even drawn, and I was like, oh, you got to color Invincible, and he was like, I don't want to, and I was like, no, you don't understand, you have to, and he was like, holy shit, this guy's serious. Okay, whatever, fine. But and then Jay Ferber and Jamal Eigel did Venture, and I think I'm missing one. Oh, Invincible. That was the other one. I don't know. There were other ones that didn't come out. There were other ones that people were putting together and they eventually bailed out. I'm not going to name them here, but they're bastards. They are. But they debuted all in 1 month, and they debuted okay. I mean, I think Dominion did the best because of Keith Giffen. He's a big name. And then Clockmaker came in after that, and they debuted well. And then Invincible was third, which Corey and I were shocked with, because I thought, I wanted Invincible to sell really well, but Corey's kind of a pessimist, I like to say, and he thought we were going to do horribly. But we came in third. It was great, and we came in above Jay Ferber, who had been doing, Titans over at DC, and then Phil Hester and Andy Kuhn, and because Fire Breather and Venture came in below us, we were shocked, and then our sales just they dropped after we came out, and the book kind of struggled, and I guess just bullheadedness. I kept putting it out, and Corey was behind, and so the schedule was real bad, and so it wasn't hard to keep it going for the time that it went, because we only did like 6 issues in the first year, and the book was about to die, and then I got picked up by Marvel, and the movie got optioned as a movie, and I got Ryan Otley to take over. Corey and I got Ryan Otley to take over because Corey knew that he just couldn't do a monthly schedule. And so the book started coming out more regularly, and there were just all these things that happened that saved the book. But, I would say the Image superhero line was a bit of a failure. But they were good books. It's just, it's a tough marketplace. And by all rights, Invincible should have been canceled with them. But for whatever reason, I was just like, no, I've got nothing else. I'm dying here. And I was still not making any money at the time. And so, we'd make a little bit of money, but not that much. Invincible was, and a lot of the stuff was stuff I had building up. It was ideas I had as a kid. It was ideas I had, when I wasn't a kid, before I did comics, whatever. Invincible was like, sit down and create a comic. And that, you know, because we were working on Super Patriot, and Valentino was like, if you want to do a book for the superhero line, come up with something. And it was, you know, had to be iconic, you know, couldn't be too dark, because he didn't want, you know, Dark Knight Returns stuff that everybody had been doing. And so, you know, Corey lived with me at the time, because his lease was up on his apartment. He lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky. His lease was up on his apartment, and he didn't have any, you know, he had a job. And I was like, well, you know, you're gonna be looking for a new apartment. And at the same time, Larson said, do the Super Patriot miniseries. And so I said, why don't you come and stay with me? I had an extra room in my house, but it was my studio. And so I had my desk and, you know, my drawing table where I drew crappy drawings in the room in my house. And Corey came and stayed there, and he stayed there for free, and we worked on the book so that he, you know, could afford to do the first 4 issues of the 4 issue miniseries of Super Patriot. And so he was there in the room with me while we were coming up with Invincible and putting that together. And it was just, you know, it's this kid and his dad, you know, because I didn't want to come up with an origin for how he got his powers, because that always seems kind of hokey. And so I was just like, his dad was a superhero and it got passed down. That works fine, great, done deal, you know. And then why is his dad a superhero? Well, maybe this, that, whatever, you know. I didn't want to give him superpowers, and so I was like, he's an alien, whatever, you know. I wasn't trying to make him exactly like Superman, and he's not exactly like Superman, but you know, alien. There's all kinds of alien superheroes, that's fine. And I had the concept, and it was just, you know, this kid, his father is a superhero, and now he's getting trained by his father, and he's got to live in his father's shadow because his father is this great superhero that he's going to have to live up to, and it's just this struggle, and that was it. I mean, that's all I had, you know. And so I was writing the pitch, and I was just, you know, the family life, the whole concept was just the stuff that's in that first trade, where it's like the kid gets superpowers, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. They expect it, you know. It was making the fantastic seem mundane. That was the whole idea, and I thought that was enough. And I was writing the pitch, and I was just like, this is just standard, you know. There's no hook here. There's nothing cool going on. And I was writing the last page of the pitch, and I was like, maybe his dad's a bad guy, whatever, you know. And so I started writing this thing about how it was eventually going to be revealed that he came to Earth to enslave it, and that he was waiting for his son to get power so that his son could help him, and that's basically the concept, you know, that the son is trained by his father, and he's kind of raised under false pretenses, and then one day his dad just goes, hey, you know, check this out. This is going on, you're going to have to do this now, we're actually totally bad guys. Hope that's cool with you. And instead of the son going, you're right, Dad, I love you, let's go kill some people, he says, whoa, you know, which is what he would do. He's like, oh, hey, screw you. My friend, he's a cool guy, I'm not going to kill him. Fuck you. And so, so I wrote that in the pitch, and I thought it was cool. I wasn't even going to tell Corey. I was like, I'll show it to the image guys, and I will, you know, because I'm sitting over at my computer, he's drawing Super Patriot, and I was like, oh, I'll surprise him too, and he won't expect it. Which I told him like a day later, and he was like, you weren't gonna tell me? You know, after I caught my breath again, after getting punched in the stomach, I apologized, but I really didn't tell anybody, you know, like I kept it, you know, the image people knew and Corey knew, and I don't remember if I told Bill or not, the Bill Crabtree, the fantastic colorist, I forced to color the book. He totally didn't want to color it, but yeah, I mean, you know, I tried to keep it a secret. I didn't want people to know, and I think we kept it under wraps pretty good. Basically, because the book wasn't selling that well, and it's not like people were, you know, looking for an extra level to it or whatever. So I think it came as a shock to a lot of the readers.